Hello everyone. Today we're going to see more about JavaScript and we're going to learn how to practically do things using JavaScript. In the last video, we have seen what is JavaScript and why it is needed when it comes to web development. As I've already told you, when it comes to web development, there are three major things required, and that is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If any one of them is missing, you'll not be able to develop full-fledged working websites or web pages. Because HTML is a thing which gives structure to your web page, right? It defines the structure, where has to be present where, and CSS beautifies your web page, and JavaScript is a thing which gives life to your web page. It actually embeds some life in your web pages and make them work. Actually, they make them to interact with the user, right? And that's why the three are equally important when it comes to web development. Now, for example, if I have to give you a quick example to make you understand why the three are important, and if any one of them is missing, what will happen? So here is an example. For example, here is a robot, okay, and this robot is actually not working, okay. Means at the time of development of this robot, initially it was simply a metallic kind of a structure, right, which looks similar to a human being, right? For example, if this is a robot, they have just make a metallic structure and try to make it very similar to a human being, so that it looks similar to human being, right? And nothing is there inside that. It cannot do anything. It's simply a structure, a skeleton, okay? And later on, you have added colors to that, different colors and different styles, so that it looks more beautiful and attractive, right? And then this is what your HTML and CSS does. So the skeleton which has been developed by using methods is actually your HTML. And applying various colors and various designs and various styles to this robot is actually your CSS. Okay, so here your static, or you can say your robot is created, developed, but it is not in a working condition because there's nothing inside it or given, or nothing is embedded yet so that it can work. Once you embed a program which is written by giving instructions to this robot, then it's going to work, right? Once you are embedding a program, and that program can be in any language. Now, in our case, since we're going to see web development and we're using JavaScript, so I'll take an example of JavaScript. So once you give the program, you embed the program written in your JavaScript inside this robot, it's going to start working, right? According to the instructions that you give to that robot. So this is how your actual working website or any working model works. And when it comes to web development, creating websites and web pages, all three things are very much important, right? Okay, so we were saying that JavaScript is present almost in all the browsers, and all browsers support JavaScript. And initially, when JavaScript was developed, it was widely known as a client-side scripting language. Now, why it was known as client-side scripting language? For knowing this, first you'll need to know what is client and server side scripting, okay? Or simply, what is client-server architecture? I'm going to give you a very quick and in a very easy way overview of client-server architecture. So as you can see in this diagram, these are my clients, and this is the server, and this is the internet. For example, from one of the client, I am requesting something to my server. Okay, for example, take this example only. I have requested client and server architecture. Okay, when I type this in the search box of Google and press enter, this particular request is been sent to the server, Google server, where it fetches the information which has been requested by that particular client, and it fetches it and it gives back to the client, and then it finally gets displayed on your screen, right? So this is how a client server works. Okay, similarly to this one client, there are various clients on the other side as well, which are also simultaneously requesting some or the another thing to the server, and the server is responsible for processing the request. Okay, for example, if some another client has asked for some other thing, the server will process that request. Okay, by saying this thing is required by this client. So it's going to look into the things or data which the server has, and it's going to fetch the data which is related to the request of the client, and it's going to give back to the client whatever the results the server has found. Right. So this is how your client side, and server architecture work. Okay. For example, we have seen how to create forms in HTML. Right. For example, here one of the client is actually filling a form, and after filling a form, it clicks on the submit button. After submitting the form, the request or the whole form and the information which has been filled in the form is been given to the server, and then server start processing it. While processing, the server finds that something is missing in the form and it has to be filled out compulsorily. So the server gives an error or gives a message to the client again that please fill this form and submit your form again, right? Your form, until and unless you don't fill all the fields, your form is not going to get submitted. So this type of message the server sends back to the client, and then the client can again it start filling the form from beginning, or it at least to fill the remaining field, right? So this particular process takes a huge lot of time from client to server and back from server to client. This thing has been reduced by client-side scripting language, and here comes your JavaScript. So this whole sort of thing has been reduced or has been done by JavaScript. So for example, when you are using JavaScript on your client machines, your JavaScript is present here only. You don't need to go over here somewhere, okay? JavaScript is present here only, and when you submit your form, the form is actually verified by your JavaScript code or your JavaScript program, and when your JavaScript program finds out that there's something missing, it's there and then sends back the response to your web page, right? And the message is been visible on your web page that please fill this form. And so this is how it reduces lots of time of the request and response from server to client and client to server, right? So this is one of the very biggest advantage of JavaScript scripting. Okay, and that's why this is also one of the reason why it has become more popular, right? So this was client server architecture in short, and JavaScript is widely known as a client-side scripting because it is present in a browser. So I'm telling it's present in browser side again and again. So where it is exactly present. So let's see that. So if you click on the setting button over here, and after clicking on the setting, you'll be redirected to a new tab, and over here you can see many options over here, and from here you have to select privacy and security, and then inside that there is site settings, and when you're going to browse down, you will find JavaScript somewhere. When you will click on JavaScript, you will see that it is enabled and disabled option has been provided by JavaScript, that do you want to keep JavaScript on your browser or not. And by clicking on this enable or disable button, means this particular options, you can enable or disable JavaScript on your browser, right? So this is where you can enable and disable your JavaScript. And also, if for example, if I have to see JavaScript on this particular page, I can check it. And how can I check it is simply by clicking right clicking and view page source. When I view page source, you can see all the HTML and CSS and scripting. JavaScript is written over here, which is required for that page. And here is my JavaScript written. Okay. Script. So JavaScript is usually written inside script tab, as we have seen in case of HTML. HTML is written in HTML, CSS has been written in style tag. Similarly, JavaScript is written in script tag, and here you can see your JavaScript when you do view page source, right? So this is how you can see your JavaScript on any web page. Then finally, you can also use JavaScript over here on your browser for doing various operations, or for applying various logics. And how you're going to do that is simply by clicking on the free button and going in setting tab again, going in more tools, and inside more tools there is developer tool. Okay, and when you click on this developer tool, you can see this this particular tab is opened, and here you get lots of options like elements, console, sources, network, performance, and so on. We are going to see console. So what happens in console is it's going to give whatever, this is JavaScript console. Actually, it gives whatever thing you write it over here, output for that particular thing. For example, if I'm writing 3 plus 4, it's going to return me 7. So this is how this console works. Okay, so you can perform various operations over here, in this console under the developer tools. Okay, for example, if I'm writing something else, like, yeah, it's giving -11. Similarly, anything you write it, it's going to return you. For example, if I am writing alert, and inside alert, if I'm writing JavaScript, it's going to give me an alert at the top. Here we go. Right now, you're not knowing what is this alert. I'll tell you in our further videos what this alert means. Okay, for now, just understand that alert is actually giving you a pop-up. It's alerting you for something. Okay, so this is how the console looks over here, right? Okay, fine. And now there are again two other ways for opening this particular developer tool, and that's by right-clicking on the web page and simply doing inspect. It's again going to open the same tag over here. Okay, and you can go on the console and then you can do your things, right? Similarly, by pressing F12, it also opens the same thing, right? Okay, moving further with this, I'm going to show you where you're going to write JavaScript on your Visual Studio Code, okay, or in your HTML document, right? Because so far what we have seen is writing HTML and CSS over here, right? Initially we have seen it in Notepad++. We have created many HTML and CSS documents. Similarly, we have also created HTML documents in Visual Studio Code, right? So where JavaScript is written over here in HTML document, that we're going to see it. So as I told you already, that JavaScript is usually written in this tag, right? That is script tag. So for writing JavaScript, you have to use the script tag, and inside the script tag, your JavaScript thing will come. Means whatever you want to write in JavaScript will come. So I'm going to write it over here inside head. Okay, I have not closed it. Okay, and the same thing I'm going to write over there. What I have written in the console right now, the same thing I'm going to write it over here. For example, I'll write alert, and inside alert I'm going to write maybe hello world. Okay, and let's see how does this will work. I'm going to save it, and when I go over here and refresh this thing, sorry, not this thing, I have to open this particular thing, right? So for opening this particular thing, I'm just simply going to go run without debugging, and it's going to ask me where you have to run. So I'm going to select Chrome, and it's telling me that your browser is already running this. So let me see. Here it is. Okay, so you can see that my HTML document was containing this learning JavaScript. So the same file is opened over here, and now if I refresh it, I'll get an alert of hello world, right? So the same thing which we have seen in your console over here on your browser, the same thing we have done on Visual Studio Code as well, right? So we have seen that. Okay, this is too big. Yeah, in console, how we have seen how does it works. The same thing over there as well. So the next thing which which we'll do is again the thing which we have computed, right? For example, we added something, right? 3 plus 4. But in this case, this will not get displayed, or the result of this thing will not get displayed in your console, because for doing that, you have to write over here console.log. So this is a thing which will tell your JavaScript console, or which will open up in your JavaScript console. It will log all the things which is written down in this console over there. Okay, so if I do this now and save it and refresh it, first hello world will come because I've written that, and then 7 will come, right? So anything you can write over here inside this console and it's going to print it over here. For example, I'm doing 113 plus 4, and when I'm going to refresh it, 117, right? So this is how you can write over here in your HTML document. So you can write this script tag or your JavaScript in your head section of HTML document or in the body section of your HTML document. It will work same. For example, if I cut it and if I simply go and paste it over here and save it, and if I go and run it again, you will see that again same thing is going to be working. So for showing you something different, I can write hello again instead of world. Okay, so let's see if it is working inside the body tag, and if I refresh it, here it goes, hello again, right? So that means we can write a script here as well, right? Okay, now similar to this, we can also create a different file and we can point that file over here in our HTML document, as we were doing for CSS, right? We were writing external CSS and we were giving a reference of external CSS in our HTML document. The same thing can be done with JavaScript as well. And for doing that, we simply have to create another file and give it an extension as .js. Okay, so I have a file called app, and I'm app.js, and I'm going to write all my code of JavaScript inside this. Okay, so I'm going to cut this thing and I'm going to go over here in app.js and I'm going to write it over here. Okay, I'm simply pasting it over here and I'm going to save it. And as I've written over there, I have to also give the reference over here, right, in HTML document. And for doing that, I have to write over here script, and the source of the script is going to be app.js, and I'm going to close my script. Okay, script tag. So let's see how does this work. So I'm going to save this and I will go over here and run again. So here we go, hello again. So again, you maybe will just verify it that whether it's coming from external JS file or not. So instead of hello again, I'll write hello external JS file. Okay, and now let's see whether it is giving us a result from the external JS file or not. Here we go. So yes, it is working as expected, right? So you can write your script tag or your JavaScript in head, in body, or in or you can point it to an external JS as well. Okay, JS file as well. Or at a time you can write in head and body, both places as well. Okay. Now there are many times a confusion or question by by people that which is the best practice, where should we write the script tag or the JavaScript. We know that we can write it in head section or in body section or in both, or we can point an external JS, but where is the best thing, right? So the best I can say, let's see with an example. For example, if I am adding over here a text box, okay, so for adding a text box, what do? We write input, and I'm going to give the type as text because it's a text box, and then I'm going to simply close my text box. Okay, so I'm going to close my input element. Okay, and then I will go over here in my JavaScript. So for now, I'll add over here one more script tag. Okay, so I'm going to add it over here, maybe inside my body, and I'm going to write script, and let me close this as well. And inside my script, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call my input element. Okay, I'm going to give an ID to my input element. Maybe we've seen all these things. Do you remember? We've seen these things in HTML and CSS. If you don't know, please watch our HTML and CSS videos. So I'm going to add ID over here, txt, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call my ID txt. So for calling ID txt, I'm going to write document dot get element by ID. Okay, there's something wrong, and the something wrong is, yeah, the something wrong was the alphabet, lowercase alphabet. So I'm going to write get element by ID, and inside this I'm going to write my ID name, which is txt, and I'm going to set a background color to this by giving style dot background color. Okay, and okay, background color, which is maybe going to be green, so that's visible clearly, and I'm going to save this. Okay, and so this is my text box and this is my color. Now before applying CSS, let's see our text box is visible or not. So I'll just, let's first see the CSS, and here we go, our text box is visible over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm again going to add my script over here, JavaScript, and I'm going to run this. Now let's see what happens. Since I have applied green color to this, it's green color, can you see? So this is turned to green color. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply go and pick my script or JavaScript thing, and I'm going to go and write it in the head section. Now let's see what happens. You can write more than one script in your head section. Okay, as you can see, already I have referred to a script, external script, JavaScript, and again I'm writing another script tag over here. So you can do that. So if I'm refreshing it, let's see what happens. My text box has not applied background color. It is not getting the background color. Now, why in this particular case, when we are writing the script tag inside a head section, it doesn't work as expected. It doesn't give any background color to our text box. And this is because your script, your JavaScript is present before the text box in this case. And the time, until the time when your JavaScript has been executed, your text box is not yet loaded. And that's why your script doesn't find the text box to whom the script has to apply the color, and that's why in the browser it throws an error of null, referencing null. So if I have to say what will be the best position or the best place to write JavaScript, it's actually the best place will be inside your body section, and inside your body section you can write it at the bottom, at the very last. Okay, even if you're when you're referring to an external JavaScript, you can point it in the body section at the very bottom of your body. Okay, all right. So with this, I have to tell you one more important thing, and that is why JavaScript is called as a scripting language more widely than a programming language. Of course, it is a programming language as well, but it's usually we tell it as a scripting language, and this is because scripting language means scripting is actually interpreted. Okay, whatever script we write, it is interpreted by an interpreter, and programs, whatever programs we write, it is actually compiled by a compiler. Now in this case, JavaScript is known as a scripting language, and it is been interpreted at in your browser. Okay, so what is the difference between a compiler and interpreter? That is, compiler actually converts, means both of them do the same work, but the difference is compiler takes the whole program at a time, and then it actually converts whatever you have written in your program, which is called as a high-level language, into machine understandable language, right? Which your machine understands. That is your binary numbers, 0 and 1. Machines doesn't understand anything else than 0 and 1, right? So your compiler or your interpreter converts your high-level language to your machine-level language. So both are actually doing the same thing, but in case of scripting language, there is no compiler, but there is an interpreter. An interpreter, instead of taking the whole code at a time, it takes one by one single line at a time for interpreting. Okay. So this is a difference between them. Now, what is a high level language and low level language, or you can say the machine level language? You may be knowing, right? The high level language is nothing but the language of writing programs. Now, the language which we speak is in terms of English or any other language which we use for speaking is called, it can also be called as a high level language. Okay, so we are having lots of syntax in a programming language. Okay, so this programming language has been developed for human understanding, right? Because we are, it was very difficult at the starting when we found out that computer only understand binary language, that is 0 and 1, and writing program in binary language so that the computer understand it, and then it executes whatever we are giving the commands to the computer. It would have become very difficult for us to write everything in binary language which the computer understand, and that's why we developed many programming languages which we will understand, right? And these programming languages are actually consisting of syntaxes. It is not straightforward your language or an English language or any local language which you know, right? It is actually compromising of some syntax in it, and that's what we're going to learn further. So JavaScript is also one of the scripting languages which we are going to learn further for writing programs into JavaScript, so that we can develop more beautiful and more interactive web pages. So in our further videos, we're going to proceed with syntaxes in JavaScript. We're going to see various things in JavaScript like data types, like variables, what are conditional statements, and so on and so forth. Okay, so what we have seen today is we have seen a little bit overview of client server architecture. Then we have seen how to enable JavaScript. We have seen how JavaScript isn't supported by all browsers. We have seen how to inspect by using developer tools. Then we have seen the console command. The console tag, or the console command, is actually used for displaying on your console window on your browser. Then placing of JavaScript can be placed anywhere inside a head, body, or both, or we can point an external. And writing JavaScript code in VS. We have seen how we write code in VS as well, and on the browser side, browser console as well. And then we've seen where should we place this JavaScript tag in HTML, and which is the best one to use, right? And a quick difference between compiler and interpreter. So hope you like this video, and let's meet in our next video. Till then, do practice whatever we have learned today, and let me know if there are any queries or any questions you have. Thank you. Bye.